Hello everyone and welcome. It's Alexandra. In today's video, we're going to work on the page number 5, and it's the last page of our antique fashion mini book. It's not the last tutorial in the series because we still have to work on the cover and the binding for our book, but in terms of the pages, it will be the last one for us to assemble. Let me show you how the page number 5 looks like. We have a pocket with a see-through opening. A few specimen slides are being stored in that pocket. We have a slot at the top of the page that holds a little booklet that you can journal in or add your notes to. Then I remind you that all of our pages are pocket style pages, and each one of them holds a card with some great images of antique patterns which are related to fashion or sewing. Then on the reverse side of the page, we have a large pocket that holds a card with more images of beautiful women from the Victorian era. And then we also have another pocket with a see-through opening that holds a double-sided tag with the images of some gentlemen this time. And then through that opening, we see a beautiful image of a mother teaching her daughter how to use a sewing machine. And that's our page for today. Before we jump right into it, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has joined me in this project, and I hope some more people will join a little bit later. Now let me grab my self-healing mat and show you the pages that we're going to need today. We're going to work with the page that looks like this. Then this is our base for the page number 5. On this page, we have the pocket for a tag with a see-through opening that we will have to cut out. And then we have a matting piece, which is also a pocket that will go on top of the base layer of our page. Then here we have another matting piece for the front of the page number 5, and also the element for the horizontal pocket on the front of the page as well. Some additional elements to fussy cut. Then here we have the large card that will go into the large pocket on the page with some more labels and fussy cut pieces to play with. And then here is the double-sided tag that will go into the pocket on the reverse side of the page with some more faux postage stamps with fashion plates, some additional labels, and faux fabric pieces that we are going to use on the pages of our booklets that the mini book holds. Some more labels to cut out. And I think that for today, these are all of the pages that we're going to need. So let's start cutting out and assemble the base for the page number 5. And here it is. This is our base page number 5 assembled. Make sure that you have the pieces positioned the same way that I have them in. The binding will be on this side of the page. That's why I have already added some ink on the inside along the opposite edge of the page. Now that we have that done, we can move on to the matting piece of paper that will be glued down to the front of our base page. And here is that piece along with the pocket. We will cut out both of the elements and keep on working with them. I also want to show you how to cut the notch here because it's a little bit wider than usual, and we do want to have this edge as straight as possible. It will be easier to cut it with the craft knife and use a ruler. So I will cut from where the edge starts to curve up to the point where it starts to curve on this end. That's the line, more or less. And then I will use my scissors to snip off the corners and also cut at an angle along the outline of the pocket up to the line that I cut through. And the same thing here. And then snip the corner. Let's punch out the slot at the top of our matting piece, and for that I would like to use today the Japanese screw punch. This one is from Martha Stewart. I'm not sure, I haven't checked before filming this if this tool is still available. It might be, but there is also a Chinese version of the same tool, and it comes with a few sizes of the holes that you can punch using the tool. I think this one comes with 5 sizes, and the one from Martha Stewart comes with only 3. But what's convenient here is that you can store these bits right in the tool itself. So I'm using the size of the hole which is appropriate for the size of the slot that I have here, and it's 1/8 of an inch. Now that I have 2 of the holes punched out, I can cut out the opening. What's good about this specific tool is that you can punch holes anywhere on the surface of whatever you are working with, and you are not limited by the depth of the throat, let's call it that way, of the crocodile or any other punching tool that you have. This piece is now ready to be glued onto our base page. Don't forget that you have to add the glue only around the edges. I don't measure the space that I need to leave from the sides and from the top because I just use the ends of the slot as my guides. And then at the bottom, I leave about 1/2 inch. Yeah, 1/2 inch from the bottom edge of the page. And then in the center, we do not add any glue. Since it is a little bit smaller than the base page, I remind you, you will have to center it, and you will see that there will be a very narrow border all around the edges of the matting piece, like so. We have to cut out the opening in the pocket, and there is also a label that I added there because I don't like to leave a lot of empty spaces on the pages of the printables. If you have a punch like this one, its throat is quite wide, you can reach to the corners, not only the ones that are close to the edge of the paper piece, but also to the ones which are further away. Of course, you can also flip the page this way, but still, this space here can still be too far away for your regular punch to reach. You can try to use crocodile for that. That's also fine, but the thing is that the size of this hole punch is 1/4 of an inch, and the size of the larger hole in the crocodile, I think, is 3/16. So anyway, you can either use a hole punch, or you can also, of course, use plain scissors with sharp and pointy tips. And the way to do that is, first of all, to cut out the label. Now, this hole, for example, is still not punched. So I will cut with my scissors to the very corner. And then, I can slowly just cut along the edge of that opening and cut out the whole shape like so. Or you can also use your craft knife and a ruler along the straight edges of the shape and then finish off the curved areas with your scissors. Okay, but whichever way you choose, our goal here is to cut out that opening, and this is what you will have once you are done. Don't forget to ink the edges. Now let's see if we need maybe to narrow the flaps. I think we can do that, but not too much. Maybe 1/16 on each flap can be cut off, or slightly more than that. Not too much though, just to make sure that the flaps are not visible through the opening. Next, we're going to add a piece of acetate in the back of the pocket. I will cut a piece of acetate that will be 2.5 inches tall by 4 inches wide. I will glue down the acetate piece right on top of the opening while centering it between the flaps and gluing it down closer to the flap at the bottom. And this is our pocket. You will glue it down right along the bottom of the matting piece. I'm going to apply the glue only to the bottom flap so far. Line it up with the bottom edge of the paper. Now I will add little pieces of clear tape in the corners up to where the image begins so that I don't see the tape pieces from the front. We can take 2 of the slides that we have created in the previous part of our tutorial and put them inside this pocket. The next piece that I'm going to cut out will be the matting piece for the back of our page number 5 and also the pocket with the see-through opening. The diameter of the opening on this element is 2.5 inches, more or less. Although I do have a paper punch of that size, I will not be able to use it because even with the flap, with the side flap folded, my paper punch cannot reach all the way and I cannot center it on top of the opening. That's why I am going to use a die, which is, well, not this one. I will have to find the next one in the set that will be of the same diameter or maybe slightly more than that. The image that you will see through the opening is right here. So if you want to check that your die, even though it will be a little bit larger than the size of the opening on the printable, will fit for this purpose, you can measure the diameter, the outer diameter of the circle around the image on this page. The die, which is 2.5 inches or 2 inches and 5/8, could work fine. If you do not have the die, then you will have to work just a little bit harder and cut out the opening using scissors. You will cut out the labels that you see inside this space first, and then either with the help of the craft knife, if you feel comfortable, you will be able to cut right along the edge of the opening. You will do it slowly and make sure that the blade is really sharp for that purpose. You can also use your scissors and do the same. Just be very slow and try to follow the outline of the round opening the best you can. If you have a die of the proper size, I of course recommend to use the die, because then you will have a perfectly finished and straight edge of the opening, and that of course is the best way to go. So let me cut out the elements and then die cut the opening for the pocket and get back to you. Let's fold the flaps and have a look. We need to trim from the flaps on the sides, and it's almost 1/8 of an inch. Let's measure what should be the size of the acetate piece that we're going to add on top of the opening. Mine is about 3 inches wide, and I do want this piece to be a little bit taller than just 3 inches. I think I will go with 3 by 4 inches for this area. I will glue this acetate piece down right on top of the opening, like so. Now, to make sure that over time the acetate piece stays in place and doesn't start to peel off at the top from us sliding the tag in and pulling it out from the pocket, I want to add a piece of clear tape along the top edge. Now that we have that done, let's ink around the edges and glue it down on top of the matting piece. I think that it will be wiser to glue down the matting piece onto the base page first and then to add the pocket on top. Like any other matting piece, this pocket will be slightly smaller than the base of your page. That's why make sure that you center it when you glue it on top. Let's add the glue to the side flap only and adhere this piece onto the base page only by that side flap for now. We're going to cover this flap with a piece of tape. The piece of tape that I used, if you wonder, is 4.5 inches long, about that. Now that I have it glued down on top of the flap, I can add the glue to the top and bottom flaps and adhere this paper piece down to the base page. This paper piece is glued down to the page, and we can continue to adhering the pocket for a tag. See where it is best to glue it down so that everything is matching nicely. Again, I will glue it down only by the bottom flap for now. Now I will open the pocket and add a piece of tape right on top of the flap, and then add glue to the side flaps and adhere the whole pocket to the page. Make sure that you use bone folder or something else to burnish on top of the pocket. Make sure that the flaps adhere good enough to your page. And this is how it will look like. I will put back the specimen slides into the pocket, and we can now cut out and assemble the double-sided tag that will go into the pocket, as well as the double-sided card that will go into the pocket on the side right here. Let's do that next. This card is now ready, and we can slide it into the pocket. It should slide in nicely. If you feel that it's a little bit tight, then you can trim from the top and the bottom of the card about 1/16 of an inch. Maybe I will trim now from this edge as well, just to make sure that we have even borders on at least 3 edges of this card. I'll re-ink the paper edges where I have just cut and try again. I can move on to assembling the tag. This is what you're going to have. I will reinforce the hole there at the top of the tag later, the same way as I did here. You can use eyelets if you want to, but that's the page almost ready. It only needs the booklet to be added to it, and I am going to cut out the cover for the booklet, and I will also prepare 4 sheets of regular printing paper. I will attach the pages with the help of 2 staples. You already know how to do that. I showed a few times that process in the previous parts of the tutorial, so I will speed this process up this time. That booklet is also ready. We can, for now, slide it into its place, and we will work on embellishing it in one of the next parts of our tutorials. For now, it will stay like that. I also decided to clip one of the advertising cards to the cover of this booklet. We also have this envelope that we need to assemble, and that's what we're going to do next. I will cut the envelope out, and then we're going to assemble it together. Use your craft knife and a ruler to trim next to the straight edges of the flap, and then use your scissors and round up the corners. To cut out the notch, you can also use a craft knife along the straight edge and trim the rest with the help of the scissors. Let's score the flaps. I'm lining the ruler also along the edge of this part of the envelope. So here my ruler is absolutely flush with the cut edge. And then I use my needle tool to score a line that will fall right on top of the white line between the flap and the body of the envelope. Now I can fold these in. Then I will score a line right here, right along that white line between the pieces. And then I will also score another line between the flap and the back of the envelope. Before we assemble it, let's add some ink on the inside of that flap at the top. And also ink for now along the notch of our envelope. You will see the marked places for poking a hole in the body of the envelope and also on the flap. Next, I will use 2 tiny brads and also a piece of thin twine or thicker thread, depends on how you look at it. And I will attach the circles both to the body of the envelope and also to the flap. In the back of the circle and the brad, which are on the body of the envelope, I will glue a piece of clear tape to make sure that whatever I'm going to put inside the pocket doesn't catch on the prongs of the brad on the inside. And then at the top, I'm going to cover the prongs of the brad with the third punched out circle of a cream color. Now I can also ink the edges more and glue the flaps down. And then add my string by just tying it around the top circle. I'll make a double knot, trim the excess thread on this side, and then use the tail to wind around the 2 circles that we have attached to our envelope. Here it is. I think that for today, what's left for us to do is only to cut out the labels and some more pieces that we had on our pages. I will do that offline, of course. It's a very relaxing process. I really like fussy cutting. I hope you do too. Page number 5 is now assembled, and it can join the rest of the pages that we have completed before. Next time, in the next tutorial, we're going to work on the binding for our mini book. Depending on how long creating the binding and the covers will take, I might create an additional video for the process of embellishing the insides of the front and back covers using the leftover elements from the kit. And of course, there will be another part that will be dedicated to adhering the tiny elements that we have saved until now in the blue envelope, if you remember. And we will embellish the pages of all the booklets that we have in our mini book with the help of those elements. But of course, you're welcome to do it your way and work on that part independently. For now, I think that's all, and I will talk to you quite soon. If you have any questions, let me know. Till the next time. Bye.